Michigan, 69 yards.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian. We're ready to go here, and it's always great to be with you. And today is no different on this Monday. If you're a Michigan fan, you just got to be, what's the word, giddy? I mean, you're really happy. Great news for Michigan over the weekend, and we now know who's coming back. We're waiting on a few players to see if they're going to declare for the NFL. And in fact, they did not declare for the NFL. They declared that they're coming back to Michigan to run it back, and they have unfinished business, and we're going to get to that. That's the fabulous news for the Wolverines. Thanks to Fox for the audio. That was Cornelius Johnson, that first touchdown that he scored against Ohio State. Remember, he had two in the first half, a 69-yarder, a 75-yarder, and 7:26 just to play till half, till Michigan was able to break that seal and get the touchdown. It certainly was exciting. Remember watching that game, and up to that point, not very exciting for the Maize and Blue. But after that, Michigan really, not only broke the seal, but, they scored another touchdown and then scored coming out in the third quarter, kept it going all the way through, had those long touchdowns by Donovan Edwards. Never get tired of talking about that game. And why would we be playing a highlight of Cornelius Johnson on a long touchdown reception? Well, you already know. And if you don't, maybe there's one or two of you that don't know. Michigan got some players back, and one of them being a Cojo, and that's big news for the Wolverines. We'll talk about all of those guys and what it means for Michigan. I ask you the question, now that we know all the players that are coming back, what are your expectations for Michigan football next year? I'll give you mine. You can weigh in yourself if whether you want to call it in, whether you want to put your feedback on the screen. We'll put it up on the broadcast, and we'll see where you're at. Also, Michigan won a basketball game yesterday. We'll touch on that. We'll run some numbers and throw them at you and see what you're thinking of those. But we start with that big news, and we'll mix in some Harbaugh thoughts. Is maybe I'm thinking now that it's going to be when I'm on, that it's just going to happen, that you're going to hear like Harbaugh has signed and he's coming back. And maybe that'll be today. I mean, it wouldn't be a shock if I was sitting here and the news came in that Jim Harbaugh has signed a contract extension with Michigan and he's running it back. And, that's going to be even more than the cherry on top. I think we're all waiting for that to happen. And any time now, literally any time, like right now, that could happen. But you would think, this is just good news towards that end with Harbaugh coming back. All of his players are coming back. And, Jim might be looking at that, even if he's waiting and, thinking, and who knows how you're thinking about it, whether he's, hoping for an NFL offer or whatever. He keeps seeing like, wow, this guy's coming back. This guy's coming back. Why don't I just go back to Michigan? This is a great team that's being brought back for some coach. And if even for just a second you pictured like Harbaugh not being here, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like at some point he is going to come back. But whoever would be going in, whoever's going to coach this team next year, going to have a lot of good players at their disposal. And let's just look at it right here. So it started. Blaker. It says Blake Corum came back, and we were, not. We didn't know what to expect, but then, he made the announcement, and then Blake Corum's coming back. And then you saw, previous to that, Mike Sainristil still, and maybe in another different time or different, previous to name, image, and likeness, or, I have come to accustom, probably like you, a few surprises in the offseason where it's like, really, that guy's going to go pro? Real nice player, real nice season, but are you really ready to go pro? You seem to get a player or two that falls into that category every year. None of those guys fell into the category this year. Sainristil, said he was coming back. Then Blake Corum saying he's coming back. And then we had a little bit of a flurry. Trevor Keegan last week. We talked about Keegan at guard coming back. And then we were like, well, and then Michael Barrett, who started every game last year for Michigan except the opener at linebacker. Cojo, who we already talked about, started every game at wide receiver for Michigan last year. Chris Jenkins started every game at tackle for Michigan last year. And Zach Zinter started every game for Michigan at guard last year. I didn't say Keegan started every game because he missed 3. Remember, Gio El-Hadi came in and made 3 starts for Keegan, but that's a lot of starters. You want to include Sanger still? All right. Barrett, Jenkins, Cojo, Zinter, Keegan, and Corum. I mean, look at that's a lot of players to talk about. You should be giddy if you're a Michigan football fan. And there's always something to think about. Oh, damn it. Name, image, and likeness. They're effing this up or they're and you could do that. There's plenty of time for that until the season starts. But today today feels like a winning a football game for Michigan. This feels like, and not like some non-con game. This feels like a Big Ten victory. This feels like a rivalry victory. To get all of those players back for Michigan is huge. All of those starters. This Michigan team on paper is the best in the Big Ten. This Michigan team on paper is one of the top 4 teams in the country. And you don't just look at, we're looking at them today because we just got, hot off the presses with these players saying they're coming back. And, they deserve all of the attaboys and shine that they're going to get today. But remember the transfer portal and all of the different players that Michigan brought in there. And, half of those guys were looked at, like Josiah Stewart, who came from Coastal Carolina, or the transfer from Nebraska, Ernest Hausman, who's looked at as a starter as well. This team, the way it is assembled right now, answering my own question, how good I think Michigan is going to be next year, I think they're going to be the best. I think the goal is to win it all. Georgia, I mean, Georgia looks great. Back-to-back championships are the greatest football team ever. Or, I don't know. They look like a really great football team. NFL talent everywhere. But I think Michigan can play with Georgia. Let's see it. Michigan adding to their team. Is this Michigan team better than last year's team? Last year's team was better than the year before's team. And I think this team, when you think about the experience with J.J. McCarthy coming back with a full year under his belt, that's got to be big for the young QB. The offensive line that he has in front of him, I don't see why this offensive line can't be as good as the offensive lines from the last 2 years. Not when you're bringing back, the pillars inside with Zinter and Keegan. This is an NFL line. That's great news. You've got NFL backs in the backfield there. Great depth with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. And, Cornelius Johnson is somebody that when you're coming back for a senior year in any sport, when you get a guy back, you say, hey, he's coming back, unfinished business, all that. These guys are coming back. They're men. And it's not like, out of bounds kind of talk to say, hey, you expect this player to be even better and, smarter, wiser, and for them to have their best year. And Cornelius Johnson, he was making some plays, certainly in that Ohio State game towards the end of the half. I think that, Cornelius Johnson could be an all Big Ten type of wide receiver. I mean, that doesn't sound like, and it's the fun thing about this team and the program where it's sitting right now is that, this is happening. And this just developed over the last 24 hours where you can look and say, all right, Michigan, I'm sure the coach looks like it's going to happen with him. We're going to get to that. The players, name, image, and likeness. Oh my God, recruiting. Sure, there's a point to that. But remember, we also talked about what Jared Wangler in the summer, put out, I don't know, it was a tweet or a Google Doc or whatever it was. And it just said, the guys that stick around and prove themselves at Michigan, they're going to get paid 2, 3, 4 times, I think is what he said, than, giving guys signing bonuses. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, sounds great. And I was thinking the same thing. But this was the weekend where, push came to shove, where we were going to see if what Wangler was talking about with Michigan being able to take care of some of the players that they had instead of them going pro, that they would stay at Michigan, and those that would stay would get compensated. And it looks like that's exactly what happened. So, I like recruiting myself. I love 5 stars. I like, number 1 player in the country, the whole process. It's exciting. But getting Trevor Keegan back to play on this Michigan offensive line is as good as getting any 5-star recruit right now on the offensive line. Getting his opposite side guard, the right guard to his left guard, Zach Zinter coming back. That's better than getting any 5-star offensive lineman that you could possibly get. Not to mention that getting Blake Corum coming back was better than getting the number 1 running back in all of the country in recruiting. You got a 5-star. You got a 6-star in Blake Corum when he announced that he was coming back. That's 1 5-star, 2 5-star, 3 5-star. What do you want to say when it comes down to a linebacker with a kind of experience in what Michigan has returning with Michael Barrett? I'm going to go ahead and say it for you. That's like getting a 5-star. Same thing with Jenkins, and Michigan really needed it. It might be. Barrett, I think, is one of the most underrated players on the Michigan team. He was hurt the year before. People were a little down on him. And, hey, when you're hurt, you're injured, you're out there and trying, you get passed up, people are going to say, hey, maybe he's not all that kind of player. But then he came back, bided his time, got in there, and started every game for Michigan except the opener on a championship team. Barrett, very underrated. Jenkins is better than getting a 5-star. If you're getting a 5-star defensive tackle this year, it's going to take those guys. You'd expect usually maybe 2, maybe even 3 years. Jenkins at defensive tackle with the loss of Mozzie Smith was very important. That's like getting a 5-star. Folks, you hit the jackpot. Take all of the enthusiasm. Think about the enthusiasm that you would have for Michigan football and the future if Michigan landed 6 5-stars today. It'd be like, oh my God. That's what it is. That's what Michigan did today, over the weekend, over these past couple of weeks. They were able to land 6 5-stars. And the dividends for these 5-stars, they pay off immediately on the field next year. The other stuff, which, we're going to get to, like the big fat name, image, and likeness that can draw in the, top 100 recruits, Michigan's working on that. That's the, what I put out there as the last hurdle. But this was a big hurdle, and they jumped it, they cleared it, and things are looking good for the Wolverines. I'll say congratulations out there to everybody else. I don't know how you're feeling. You're feeling pretty good. You watch this or listen to this show. It's about Michigan. We're live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And today, on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, is like a victory for Michigan. January the 16th, congratulations to all of you. If you did not know, we get that feedback, put it up on the screen to see where people, how they're feeling, what they're feeling. And, sometimes it hasn't happened very often, like, commiserating after a loss or something, but mostly it's been celebration about how things are going. Andre's talking about an undefeated season next year. Josh Henschke, the publisher at the Maize and Blue Review, picked Michigan to go undefeated last year. And I didn't say this to him, but I said, I felt it. I thought, it kind of feels like a little bit of a homer pick. And, he went out and was picking it with, they had like other media, they were sending polls out. And, Henschke kept, 12-0. and he was the only one. And I never picked Michigan to go 12-0 because it's so, like you just base it on history. It's like, really 12-0? But the 12-0, 13-0, 14-0 predictions, I don't think that, I am going to say, oh, you might be just like this, gigantic Michigan homer, and you don't care. But I am not going to point the finger at you and say, oh, you sound like a gigantic homer talking about Michigan going 12-0 or 13-0. I think you can. This is the question of the day so far, and it's asked by Noah. Do you think these players know something about their coach? Yeah, I do, Noah. I think they know something. You're answering your own question. Why would they come back if they didn't know who was coaching them? Yeah, that's going to be more than the cherry on top. It's going to be the Harbaugh on top of the cherry. How about Sugar Shane? Let's see about his feedback. He says, unfinished business club, 7 for 8 back, minus Jaimon Green. Yeah, look, minus Jaimon Green, minus DJ Turner, Michigan lost a few players. But they also, Shane, as you know, hit the portal. And it doesn't mean they can't be done hitting the portal. We were talking, and actually I think it was Shane who asked me about, go left to right on the offensive line. And I was thinking back on that question. I was just, working it through my mind as I was watching all these playoff games this weekend. I think I said, I don't think I mentioned Carson Barnhart, who's, started for Michigan over at right tackle a lot when Trente Jones went down. You got two guys that split the time over at right tackle as starters for a championship team, and Barnhart, who really came on. It was the middle of the season. I had somebody saying, yeah, that's the wink link of the offensive line, but it was, but he ended up stepping up and being as big of a part of that offensive line. The Joe Sharon Moore back-to-back offensive line winners. Barnhart's the real deal. Trente Jones, he can be, you say some of these things. I was going to say he could be one of the best tackles in the country. Let's just say he can be one of the best tackles in the Big Ten. I will start there before I go and talk about him being one of the best. He's very athletic. He's a road grader. I like what I see without being like, a former offensive lineman or, putting on the tape. Why I say that is there are times when I'm going back and just watching the Michigan games, and I'll be sitting there and I'll look, and, there's a guy that makes a run down the field. And I'll look and I'll say, who's that big old 53 that's like way down the field, like blocking guys 20 yards down the field? And I'll go back, and it's Jones. It's Trente Jones. I'll be down there like running as fast as, a safety, pushing guys out of bounds. It's like, man, that guy's athletic. Sure, he got beat a couple times. I'm like, did I say he's, the greatest tackle? He's ready to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft? No, but I think guys can get better, especially on the offensive line. And then whoever is going to be over at the left side, Parsi, Bounds, Lorenzetta, Jones, Gentry. Those are the guys that are on the roster. Then the guys that they brought in, the one from Arizona State. He's I like the flexibility that, what's his name? Ladarius Henderson brings. Played guard, played tackle. That's the versatility that you're looking for. They brought in Miles Hinton, who played tackle, a former 5-star. One of those guys, I don't know what we're talking about, 7, 8 guys, candidates to play left tackle. Maybe they flip Barnhart or Trente Jones. If we're talking about, starts under your belt. If you're just going with starts under your belt, let's just flip Trente Jones and put him on the left side. Let's put Carson Barnhart over on the right side. Keegan, Zinter. And then right there in the middle, the transfer, one of the best in the country. At least that's what Pro Football Focus. I didn't watch. I don't know if I've watched Stanford play football all year long. But Drake Nugent, was one of the best. And now he's coming in and, could be Michigan's offense, or could it be their next Olo with Timmy in there. Very exciting, I think, if you're a Michigan fan today. GFF says the expectations have been set by the last 2 seasons. Win the Natty or bust. I'm all right with that expectation. I think they are too. That's where the program is at right now. All of these players know they had one bad game and they want to come back and make it right for next year. Yeah, Richard, man, everybody's on top of their game, making the points, not beating around the bush, just going right at it. They want to snatch another of those gold pants from the Buckeyes, or those little medallions that they got. The Buckeyes get their gold pants. The Wolverines get those keychains, I think. Team 143 is unique. They are true conquering heroes. Wow. There you go. Let's put a couple others up here. Kent. What's going on with the conclave? Can we get some white smoke for crying out loud? Let's get to that, Kent. Before we do, get to the conclave. You want to know what's going on up to the second with Jim Harbaugh, with guys that are making their announcements to come back, with transfers, the portal, recruiting, all of those things. You can be in line to know all of it immediately, and you can get instant access when you go to michigan.rivals.com and sign up to be a member of the Maize in Blue Review. I hope you do. I enjoy day and night going on the posting boards and, talking Michigan with the people. That's what we do over there. And hope to see you there. All right, Harbaugh, what is going on? I don't know, Kent. There's a lot of good news when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. You would think that he would have the pen in his hand and he would be ready to affix his signature, there and sign on the dotted line that he will be enthusiastically coaching Michigan football for next year. It's all there. That's what we're waiting for, is the announcement, is the signature. Why the hold up? Well, apparently they've agreed on the money that he's going to get for himself, for his assistants, for the buyout. That's all set. It's just waiting there for the pen and for him to sign his name. Is he waiting to see what's going to happen in the Dallas-Tampa Bay game and with Dan Quinn with the Broncos? I mean, you can, you hope not. And if you're a Michigan fan, you say, no, remember, he's just playing. He was just using this to get what he wanted in that contract. Well, now he's got the contract. So now I don't know what the wait is. It's maybe he's waiting for the right time to sign his name and make that announcement. I would think that if he wants to come back to Michigan and he has the contract that he wants and the players are all coming back, today would be the day. Now, look, I thought Friday would have been the perfect day to do it. And why not over the weekend if he got the contract that he wanted? Why are we waiting today? Maybe it's the holiday. I don't know. That's just nuts. It's unknown, just like the future. I at this point, if I am to believe that Jim Harbaugh is a Michigan man and that he just wanted that contract to get everything that he wanted in there, and now that he has everything with his agent and they're just as happy as can be with the language in the contract, and now we're just waiting for his signature, You would think sooner rather than later when you get out there to, send that out to the recruits. I don't know. Hey, if you've waited this long, what's another couple of days? I mean, that's all. That's where I'm at with it. I am just waiting for the smoke. What else can we do, Kent? Except wait for the smoke and the announcement that Harbaugh is enthusiastically coming back. Shane counting 7 players with Sainris still. I'm with you, Shane. Sounds like 7 to me. Andres on the feedback says, my concern is I would like to see more equal distribution between Corum and Edwards. Keep them healthy. I would also like to see more RPO and JJ being the deciding factor with his feet and his arm. Yeah, well, those are nice problems to have. I do think that we will see, is it more of an equal distribution? You remember that Edwards got a little bit banged up in some games. And so Corum, I don't think you want to give Corum 30 carries a game. Do we want it something like, what was the Penn State game? Do I have the carries in front of me? Donovan Edwards had 16 carries, 173 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One was a 67-yarder. Corum in that game had 28 carries, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and a 61-yarder. That's a lot of carries. I don't know. Can we get them both 20? 19 carries apiece. Boy, that's a lot of running the football. I think Michigan's going to be running the football a lot next year. They are going to be running it to Edwards, running it to Corum. One thing about JJ is, like this year, I don't think you need to have JJ running against East Carolina, UNLV, and BG. I don't know. Let his running backs do the running. But when you get down, when, Michigan has to go to, I don't know, at Nebraska, at Michigan State, you didn't probably need to do it against Michigan State. They're dirty anyways. Remember, their coaches are yelling from the sideline, let's hurt them, or whatever that was going on there. I'm saying it for fun. I know it's not fun. Oh, you dirty. They're the dirty ones. They got to live with it. That's all. That's going to be a nasty game. Maybe get JJ out of there after Michigan gets up early on Michigan State. That might be a good game to let Davis Warren throw the football all around. Let some of this depth. Let that Michigan offensive line go out there, punch him in the mouth, grab the Paul Bunyan trophy, go back to Ann Arbor. Don't worry about dealing with Michigan State. Okay, that's where we are with Michigan. Shane is giving you a left to right on the offensive line. He likes Ladarius Henderson at left tackle, Keegan and Zinter at left and right guard, Drake Nugent as your starting center, and he's picking Barnhart as your starting right tackle. Leverage. Didn't consider DJ being on the fence. Believe he was always going pro. Those 7 guys returning know something about the coach returning. Shane is predicting 15-0 national champions. You got to see it to believe it. He says that's a Ronnie Lott quote. Hey, that sounds pretty good, Shane. Actually, Mark says, I would like to see Mullins not fumble the ball on the 1-yard line. He should get the CJ Stokes treatment at the start of the 23-24 season. Well, you don't want to put a dunce cap on somebody just like the, hey, get over in the corner. You fumbled on the 1-yard line. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, there had to be more. Like, Stokes fumbled. And then everybody's like, he's never going to see the field. And then it looked like, that they were being, punitive with, Stokes. My guess is that he coughed it up a little bit he must have coughed it up a little bit in practice, and they put him into the game and they coughed it up and they're like, all right, you're not going to see the field for a while. That's going to be my guess on that. Although Mullings, so they should probably let me into practice so I could say things like that, without really saying them, like ball security in practice. But Mullings, when we saw him in the spring game, he fumbled at the goal line of the spring game. You remember what was he doing? He was reaching out, not so much like Tyler Huntley for Jim Harbaugh's brother John's team last night when he was reaching towards the goal line after he played a hell of a game, but then, had the 100-yard fumble 6 for the Ravens. But no, Mullings in the spring game coughed it up, trying to reach to get the ball to the plane of the goal. So here we have a couple instances. Now, I'm not going to go too far on that, but that's the only ones that we have seen. So I'd have to tell the coaches. This is all we see. We were able to see him at the spring game, fumble. We were able to see him against TC, fumble. So, there is something, maybe a little bit there. We're definitely keeping an eye on ball security and Khalil Mullings. DI says, Davis Warren has impressed me every time I've seen him. Agreed. I've watched a lot of spring games for Michigan where you get the backups in there and you're like, you're not really getting a true test here. But you saw him throwing it around. He's got a Big Ten arm. And he's got Big Ten accuracy. And he's now on scholarship, and he's quarterback 2 for Michigan. So, yeah. And he's a great story. Great story. All of that kind of stuff, right? There you go. Here's OT, who he was out on Friday. He didn't like the NFL talk, and I understood that. OT, like I say, 98, 99% Michigan talk, 1% sometimes, something else. Even if I tried to have a Michigan tie-in, you were out. But let's see what you said. JJ did a bad job rushing that handoff. Everybody is always giving JJ a break. No, I think there's a point to that. Remember, that wasn't a OT. That wasn't a traditional handoff with Khalil Mullings in the backfield, like either a pistol or something where you're, turning around and handing him the ball off. They had him more as an offset fullback. And it was a quick snap. It was it was a lot quicker operation. If you watch that, the whole mechanics of that handoff to Mullings, it wasn't some kind of deep handoff. It was immediately, boom, there he is. How many times did they go through those reps? How many reps did they get in bowl practice? And deciding to put that one in right then. Repetitions, I think is the word I'm looking for. Not reputations, but you don't want a reputation as a fumbler. That's why you got to work on those repetitions. But yeah, I don't, people in some ways they give their quarterbacks a break, OT, but I don't know if you've been listening to Michigan fans. I hear a lot of them say when it comes down to the TCU game, what happened? McCarthy threw the game away. McCarthy choked. I mean, I've heard that. Now, I don't like to, whether you like it or not, can you make a case that the guy threw 3 interceptions all year long? One against Purdue, one against Indiana, and what I thought was a fluky one against Michigan State. And then he threw 2 pick sixes? So you could say, yeah, that's the definition of being a choke. So if you wanted to argue that, you probably could. So people, I don't think everybody is giving JJ a break. JJ was a big part, of course, of why Michigan got to the college football playoff. But he was a big part in why they lost that game. Unfortunately, look, what do you want to say? I like the kid. He's, one of the best returners. You got the Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams at USC. You've got the southpaw, Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. And then who else are you talking about as the best returning quarterback or the best quarterbacks in college football. Who else? McCarthy. So maybe he'll be, preseason All-American. He's certainly going to be preseason All-Big Ten. So, you do give those guys kind of a break. I mean, he was the QB of an undefeated team up to that point. So, yeah, I think, talking about his contribution to that fumble down at the one, you can do that, if you want. There's a lot of things in that game, to go back. They had a terrible game. Let's see. Mark says he likes the beer. Takes me a month. Get what you got in a few days. Yeah, I always said, man, it would be nice if it grew on the top of my head like that. But, those are the old days that I say that. I don't care anymore. It does grow pretty fast in my face, though. You're right, Mark. No doubt. People have fun. Orgy's he's a fun player to say his name, and he's a fun player to think about putting him in short yardage situations. Boy says he just finished the Joel Klatt show. He said Harbaugh is leveraging U of M for increased commitment to staff and players. Well, it sounds like Joel is a subscriber to the Maize and Blue Review. Boy. Don't care for the Wildcat, though it's just me. No, it's not just you. I don't care for the Wildcat either. In some ways, there's sometimes I see it. They're Northwestern doing it in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. And they, here's the Wildcats running the Wildcat. And it was pretty effective. You have to have a running back that can throw the football for the Wildcat to be effective to me. Yeah, or you just have, Derrick Henry. It seems like a pretty good option throwing him in there. And you get what all like the football gurus and, guys that have played the game. Well, you get the other linemen up there. I get all that. But yeah, I think about Halloween 2020 when, they had Haskins throwing the football down there and Josh Gaddis and then you had all these, Michigan film dudes saying, oh yeah, that was a good play. And I was like, no, it wasn't. That was not a good play. And I had to hear Josh Gaddis say, well, if it would have worked, everybody would have told me how great I was. I don't know about that, Josh. I don't know if that, and so now they're telling you, what a bonehead play it was. I didn't like that one. Let's get to the punters. He's interested to see how the staff develops the guys deciding to return. I think these players all want a shot in the NFL. Excited to see how their draft stock is effective. Well, that's it. I think some of these guys, like Blake Corum, if Corum can come back and put on film in the games and show that he's the player that he was a year ago, his stock is going up because there would have been a question about him. Would he have been able to run, all those kind of things? But if he comes back and he's the player that he was last year, boom. I was watching J.K. Dobbins last night, player that I always comped Corum, and he was a second rounder. Donovan Edwards, I had to make that decision, but Donovan Edwards looks like the kind of running back that every NFL team wants. Cojo, more games like against Ohio State. Let's see him be a threat in the red zone. Let's see him go up and high point some balls. Like, you're, again, watching the NFL playoffs. You see these guys running these fades and these back shoulders down in the end zone. Some of these guys, when they're single covered, man, it's taking candy from a baby. Cojo's got that size, and he's got the strength. Let's see it. Let's see him go down there and be dangerous down by the goal line. Well, he could get drafted. Jenkins, a year down on the defensive line, smacking guys around, stuffing the run, leading Michigan down there. Boom. Draft stock is heading up. And then the two guys inside, what more can you say? They have pretty good draft grades. Any other year and, pre-NIL, Keegan and Zinter are gone. Gone. So, I don't know. Michigan road grades themselves to another Big Ten championship, college football playoff. Those two guys are going to get picked. They're going to get picked pretty high. What will Hinton's role be in the offensive line? I think he's competing for a tackle starting spot, or certainly into the 2 deep right now, John. I mean, he was a 5-star coming in. So, obviously he's got the talent, got the bloodlines with his dad and his brother that played here. Let's see. It wouldn't be a huge shock if he won the job as a starting left tackle, but he's in the mix. You know what I'm saying? Okay. JJ forced those pick sixes against TCU, but he's young. So I can cut him some slack, but never again. No more pick sixes. I'm with you on that. No more pick sixes for JJ. If you missed the basketball game yesterday, here's what you need to know about the Wolverines on the hardwood. They beat Northwestern. That's the news to snap that 2-game losing streak yesterday afternoon. And U of M needs to get these wins. They got a very manageable schedule coming up. Look at it. At Maryland on Thursday, they can win that game. Minnesota, they will win that game. Versus Purdue, they beat Purdue last year at home. Do it again. And then at Penn State, a team that they beat a week or so ago in Ann Arbor. But at the bare minimum, winning 3 of 4 for the rest of the month. And now you're talking, putting yourself in position to get into February, to get into the tournament. Speaking of the tournament, I was watching Tennessee and Kentucky on... Now, when did I watch them? Saturday. Joe Lunardi said that he has 10 teams from the Big Ten making the tournament. I would have thought 7 or 8, but hey, he's Joey Brackets. He had 10 teams, which was really, I don't know, say shocking, but it was surprising to me to have that many teams in the tournament. And you start looking at some of Michigan's numbers here. RPI 83rd. They need to get that bumped up. 3 out of 4 would do that. That has them 12th in the Big Ten ratings percentage index-wise. And then KenPom.com, Michigan checking in today at 50 after their win against the Cats. And that puts them with other Big Ten teams at 10. If Selection Sunday was yesterday, would Michigan have made the tournament? I think the answer to that is no. So they've got some work to do, but they've got the games and the schedule to do it. So they can change that right now. I'll take some more feedback before I let you out there and enjoy the rest of your MLK Junior Day. DI-11, wishbone goal line package would be exciting. JJ Orgy, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum. All right, you got me. I'm excited. I mean, wishbone. I'm excited. 3 Heisman hopefuls. There's no doubt about that. Let's see. Shane talking about moving Trente Jones to blocking tight end. Too good to be sitting on the bench. Kind of like Honigford, huh? Logan says Drake maybe coming back as well. Drake Nugent? Is that what you're talking about? The Michigan center hasn't played a game yet. We're already talking about him coming back. I don't know. People talking about name, image, and likeness. Name, image, and likeness. Does anyone else get the impression that Dickinson plays uninterested at times? I get the impression that Hunter Dickinson is been scouted and that teams have him a little bit figured out. And that when Hunter Dickinson was a freshman, he had Mike Smith who could shoot at point guard. He had Shawnee Brown coming in off the bench who could shoot threes. He had Franz Wagner, Isaiah Livers, and Eli Brooks. All of these guys, they would throw it into him. And if he threw it back out to him, they were shooting the three, boom. And teams couldn't attack him with double teams. Plus, he was a freshman. They didn't know his moves. And, he was an All-American. Last year, he moved out, and he could shoot threes when he was a freshman or even when he was a senior in high school. But, he moved his game outside a little bit. But, Caleb Houston, he wasn't the three-point shooter that he needed to be for Michigan last year. And, they were, I don't say lucky. They deserved to get into the tournament. with some late season wins, and they won 2 games, so they turned a otherwise what looked like was going to be a disappointing season into a successful season. And then this year, you need guys being able to shoot the three. But I think what Michigan needs to do, and I think they have, is the idea of coming down and having 4 guys and just throwing it into Hunter Dickinson, and everybody kind of stands out there and like waits to see what he's going to do. You can't do what Michigan has done. They have brung the big hoss, Terrace Reed Jr., and they've put him down and they've made him the center. And what they've done is they've moved Hunter Dickinson outside from the post, and they've got him where he can, how many times, if you watched that game yesterday, was he sitting there 10, 12 feet away and he was sticking that J from just wide of the lane or up at the elbow or shooting a 3. That's not always where you want Hunter Dickinson, but when you're always playing him in one spot, it gets tiring to play with him as a teammate. Throw it in, let Hunter, take 3-4 seconds. And then he's not as strong with the ball that he needs to be. He's getting it stripped. He's bringing it down to the smaller players. He just drops the ball. But I think what freshens him up, punters, and when you're saying looks uninterested, is get him in different spots. Try some different things out there. And Michigan has done that with this jumbo lineup with Reed Jr. playing at the same time as Dickinson. I'd like that move that they had. And also, 21 seconds into the second half, Terrence Williams II was benched. And they brought in Will Chetta. And Michigan is looking for shooters. Excuse me. They need offense. And Cheddar might be able to do a little bit of that. Heck, Joey Buckets, a catch and shoot 3-pointer. He could be that guy too. Experimenting around. I think if this team makes to take the next step, they need the combination of TW2, Cheddar, and Joey Buckets to come alive and bring him some punch offensively. Make some shots. Always sounds easy to just say, hey, make some shots. But it's sports. I got news for you. And in particular, basketball, it is a sport. And the bottom line, where it comes down, you can draw up anything you want. You know what it comes down to in basketball? You either make the shot or you miss the shot. So Michigan, I'm advocating them to make some more shots. And I think you'll think Dickinson looks a lot more engaged. You'll think this team looks a lot better. You get a lot more flow. You get a lot of things when you start sticking some more of these J's. And then Dickinson, who for the first 33 minutes, they didn't even put down on the post. And then at certain times, put the big fella down on the block, throw him the ball, and then he goes to these left-handed moves where he's dunking and shooting the left hook. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, that's a weapon. I think they're working on that, and I think you're going to see that for the rest of the month. The punters, that's what I'm expecting. That's what I saw a little bit of yesterday. That is coming out. Logan was talking about Drake May, the Carolina quarterback. He's coming back to North Carolina. He's very talented. Oh, yeah, you put him in the mix when I was talking about all the quarterbacks in the country. That's fair. Drake May's in there. Would you rather have Drake May or J.J. McCarthy? J.J. McCarthy. Maybe those are the first and second team All-Americans next year. Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May. Yeah, I saw that rumor. What's up, boy? Boy, I've had my best take today. There you go. The JJ over May take. Yeah, that's a good take. You want some more hot takes or just takes? Boy, give me a question. Hope that Dougie and Kobe keep getting better. That's the future of this team. Well, Kobe Buffkin has gotten better. I went from looking at Kobe Buffkin, and here is, for those of you who are just listening, I'm going to make a real sad and maybe boring face. This is the way I looked at Kobe Buffkin when I started the season, kind of like. But now, he can attack. He can drive. He's got a pretty nice shot. He's got a mid-range game. Kobe Buffkin has elevated his game. I like Kobe Buffkin. He's a nice player. Meanwhile, Doug McDaniel is I knew he was always going to be exciting because he's super quick and he's under 6 feet. Automatically, when you get that as a point guard and you're good, people are going to be excited about you. But he's coming off his best game. The Minnesota game, he was great. The first start that he ever had, he was great. But yesterday was his best game. And he made the winning play, and it was the alley-oop that he threw over to the big hoss for the jam. That was the biggest play of the game. And you just think about it. He was this close the game before for winning that game with no time remaining as he drove the lane against Iowa. And then when some other games, we've seen him make the big shots. I mean, he's a big shot taker, and he's been a big shot maker for Michigan. So, yeah, I like Doug McDaniel. Boy, remember this when it comes down to it's McDaniel, not McDonald. These rhymes are Daryl's. The burgers are Ronald's. Doug McDaniel, Michigan point guard, along with Kobe Buffkin. That's going to do it here for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, same time here. Maybe we'll be talking about Jim Harbaugh signing up with the rest of his guys. Jim he didn't want to take away any of the attention from all the guys returning. He wanted them to get their full cycle of attention and everything else. And now he has strategically planned on a Tuesday to sign his name. He wanted to watch Tom Brady and the Cowboys. I don't know. I'm reaching on some of that. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball.